Family, let me tell you something. Life is not a straight line. It's a journey filled with valleys that test your faith and mountains that challenge your endurance. Some of you are walking through storms right now. You're carrying burdens nobody else sees. You smile on the outside, but inside your soul is crying out for healing, for strength, for direction. And here's the truth. You cannot walk this journey alone. You were never meant to. That's why prayer is not just a ritual, it's a lifeline. Prayer is not a last resort, it's the first weapon. Prayer is not about empty words, it's about unlocking the grace of heaven to invade your earth. Grace is God giving you what you don't deserve, empowering you with what you cannot earn, and covering you with what you cannot produce on your own. And prayer is the key that activates that grace. When you kneel in prayer, you are not just talking into the air, you are stepping into the throne room of heaven. You're saying, Lord, I can't do this in my strength, but I know you can do it through me. Now listen, prayer doesn't always change your situation immediately. Sometimes prayer changes you before it changes what's around you. It softens your heart, gives you clarity, fills you with peace that makes no sense to the world. You may still be in the storm, but the storm is no longer in you. That's the healing grace of prayer. Some of you have been walking with wounds, wounds from betrayal, wounds from disappointment, wounds from failure, and you've been trying to cover them, ignore them, or heal them in your own strength. But let me remind you, what you cannot heal by yourself, God's grace can. What seems impossible in your hands becomes possible in His, and the bridge between your weakness and His strength is prayer. When you pray, you are not begging God. You are aligning yourself with His will. You are activating the power that was already promised to you. You're declaring that the journey may be hard, but the one walking with you is greater than the road ahead. So here's the call today. Don't give up on prayer. Don't let unanswered prayers make you quit. Every prayer you pray is a seed. Some seeds break through the ground quickly, others take time. But every seed has life in it when placed in the soil of God's grace. Your journey may be painful, but it can also be healed. Your journey may be broken, but it can also be restored. And the key is prayer, not just words from your lips, but faith from your heart. Because when grace is activated through prayer, chains are broken, hope is restored, and your journey is healed. Not by your power, but by His. So lift up your head, bend your knees, open your heart, and activate the grace of prayer, because your healing is waiting, your journey is being restored, and your God is ready to walk every step with you. Prayer is not ritual. It is the lifeline that connects earth to heaven. Prayer is not ritual. It is the lifeline that connects earth to heaven. Too often, people think of prayer as a duty, something to check off their spiritual to-do list, or a few memorized lines spoken before a meal or bedtime. But prayer was never meant to be reduced to routine words or religious formality. Prayer is the breath of the soul, the oxygen of the spirit, the direct line between the Creator and the created. When you understand prayer as a lifeline, you realize it's not optional, it's essential. Just as your body cannot survive without air, your spirit cannot thrive without prayer. Think about what a lifeline does. If someone is drowning, that rope tossed into the water is not just helpful. It is the very difference between life and death. That rope becomes the connection between the one in trouble and the one who has the power to pull them out. In the same way, prayer is the rope thrown down from heaven into the storms of life. It's the bridge between your weakness and God's strength, your confusion and God's wisdom, your pain and God's comfort. Without prayer, you're left to struggle in the waters of life alone. With prayer, you have access to the hand of God pulling you out of what could have destroyed you. When you see prayer this way, it changes your perspective. You stop seeing it as an obligation and start seeing it as an opportunity. You stop dragging yourself to prayer as if it's a burden and start running to it as if it's your greatest privilege. Through prayer, you are not just speaking into the air. You are stepping into the throne room of heaven. You are speaking to the one who spoke the universe into existence, the one who knows the end from the beginning, the one who holds the keys to every locked door and the solution to every impossible problem. Prayer is not about fancy words. It is not about impressing people. It is about opening your heart in honesty before God. Sometimes your prayer may be long, filled with scripture and worship. Other times, your prayer may be nothing more than a tear sliding down your face or a whisper that says, Lord, help me. Both are heard. Both are powerful, because the power is not in the length of the prayer, but in the connection it creates. The power is not in your ability to sound spiritual, but in your willingness to come humbly before the throne of grace. When life presses you with fear, prayer gives you peace. When life confuses you with questions, prayer gives you direction. When life crushes you with burdens, prayer lifts you with strength. Prayer reaches where your hands cannot, fights battles your eyes cannot see, and opens doors your efforts cannot force. Prayer is not ritual, it is your lifeline. Grace is the power of God you cannot earn, activated through prayer. Grace is the power of God you cannot earn, activated through prayer. Many people live under the weight of striving, trying to be good enough, smart enough, strong enough, or perfect enough to receive God's blessing. They chase approval, chase performance, chase perfection, and yet at the end of the day, they still feel empty because deep down they know that human effort can never reach divine perfection. That is where grace steps in. Grace is the unearned, undeserved, unconditional flow of God's power into your life. It is His gift, not your achievement. You cannot buy it. You cannot negotiate for it. You cannot work for it. Grace is given, and it is prayer that pulls it down into your daily reality. Grace is like a reservoir of living water, always full, always flowing, always available. But many people walk through life thirsty because they have not opened the valve of prayer. Prayer is what turns on the flow. Without prayer, grace remains like potential energy, real, powerful, and present, but not yet activated in your journey. With prayer, that grace begins to move, to fill, to strengthen, to cover, and to transform the places in your life where your own effort is not enough. That is why prayer is not just a conversation, it is an activation. It awakens what God has already promised. When you pray, you are not trying to convince God to be good to you. He already is good. You are not trying to make him care about your struggles. He already cares. Prayer is aligning yourself with the grace that already exists, the grace that is already waiting to be released. You are putting yourself in position to receive what your hands could never produce. Grace is the power to endure when life feels unbearable, the strength to forgive when the pain runs deep, the wisdom to decide when the path looks confusing, and the hope to keep moving when circumstances try to paralyze you. Grace is not only about salvation, it is also about daily living. It is what lifts you when you fall and keeps you standing when the winds of life blow hard. Grace is what carries you through storms and what carries you beyond your limit. And the way you access that daily portion of grace is through prayer. When you bow in humility and open your heart, you invite God to pour out his strength where you are weak, his clarity where you are blind, his peace where you are restless, and his healing where you are broken. Without prayer, life becomes a struggle of human striving, a race you can never win because the standard is perfection. With prayer, you are covered in divine sufficiency, able to rest in the truth that God's grace is enough, even when you are not. Grace is always greater than your weakness, and prayer is the connection that allows that greatness to flow into your journey. Prayer doesn't always change your situation first, it changes you. Prayer doesn't always change your situation first, it changes you. Too often when people come to prayer, they approach it as a transaction, expecting instant results, immediate breakthroughs, or quick solutions. They bring a list of requests and measure the effectiveness of prayer by how fast circumstances shift. But prayer is not a vending machine where you insert words and expect blessings to drop. Prayer is first and foremost about transformation within. Before it alters the storm around you, it has the power to calm the storm inside you. Before it rearranges the external, it reshapes the internal. When you kneel in prayer and open your heart before God, something begins to happen that you may not see with your eyes, but will surely feel in your soul. Fear begins to lose its grip because prayer replaces anxiety with peace. Anger begins to soften because prayer reminds you of mercy. Hopelessness begins to fade because prayer redirects your focus from the problem to the one greater than the problem. You may walk into prayer heavy and weary, but as you pour out your heart, you begin to rise lighter and stronger. This is the quiet miracle of prayer. It shifts your perspective, it molds your character, it repositions your faith. Sometimes the situation doesn't change immediately because the greater work is what God is doing inside of you. He may be building patience where you once rushed, endurance where you once quit, or faith where you once doubted. Prayer shapes the vessel before it pours out the blessing. Like a potter working with clay, God uses the time you spend with him in prayer to mold your heart, smooth the rough edges, and prepare you to carry the weight of the answer when it comes. If he gave you everything you asked for without first preparing your heart, what was meant to bless you might break you. This is why prayer is so vital. It teaches you to surrender control, to trust the timing of God, and to lean not on your own understanding. Even when nothing looks different outside, prayer is working inside. It renews your mind, strengthens your spirit, and deepens your intimacy with God. When you learn to value this inner transformation, you stop judging prayer by visible results alone. You begin to see that sometimes the greatest miracle is not that the mountain moved, but that you found peace while climbing it. Sometimes the greatest answer is not that the storm stopped, but that you discovered calm in the middle of it. Prayer makes you resilient. It trains your heart to believe even when sight fails, to worship even when feelings fade, and to hope even when evidence seems absent. By changing you, prayer prepares you to handle whatever comes next in your situation, whether God shifts it today, tomorrow, or in ways you never expected. The transformation within becomes the testimony that carries you until the transformation outside arrives. Unhealed wounds of life can only be restored by the healing grace of God. Unhealed wounds of life can only be restored by the healing grace of God. Every person carries scars, some visible and some hidden deep within the heart. There are wounds from betrayal, wounds from rejection, wounds from failure, and wounds from loss. These wounds shape the way people see themselves and the way they move through life. Many try to cover them with distractions, bury them with busyness, or medicate them with temporary pleasures, but the pain always finds a way to resurface. The truth is that human effort cannot heal what only divine grace can touch. The deeper the wound, the more impossible it is to fix in your own strength. That is why the grace of God is so necessary. His grace is not just about forgiving sin. It is about restoring broken hearts and mending shattered lives. God's grace is like a healing balm poured into the places of your soul that you dare not show to anyone else. It reaches where counselors cannot, where medicine cannot, and where positive thinking cannot. Grace goes beyond surface solutions and deals with the root of the pain. It brings comfort in grief, strength in weakness, and wholeness in brokenness. When you open your wounds to God in prayer, you give him access to the places you've been guarding, and he begins to do the work of healing from the inside out. Prayer becomes the doorway for grace to enter the hidden rooms of your heart, the places you've kept locked because they hurt too much to revisit. Many people carry wounds for years, and those wounds become barriers. They affect relationships, they limit growth, they silence dreams, but the grace of God can turn wounds into testimonies. What was once a source of shame can become a story of redemption. What once defined you in pain can define you in purpose. Prayer is what activates that process. When you pray, you are not pretending the wound doesn't exist. You are not denying the hurt. You are placing it in the hands of the healer who knows exactly how to mend what life has broken. Grace heals differently than the world heals. The world often tells you to move on, to toughen up, to forget the pain. But grace tells you that you can bring the pain to God, and He will use it as a tool for growth, not just something to hide. Grace doesn't erase your past, it redeems it. Grace doesn't deny that you were hurt. It declares that the hurt no longer has power to control your future. Through prayer, your wound is transformed from a place of weakness into a place of strength. Because the power of God rests in places where human strength has failed, no matter how deep the wound is, no matter how long it has been carried, there is no scar beyond the reach of God's grace. Through prayer, you allow the healing stream of heaven to flow into your journey, and what once seemed permanent can be restored. Every prayer is a seed planted in faith, watered by grace, and fulfilled in God's time. Every prayer is a seed planted in faith, watered by grace, and fulfilled in God's time. A seed may look small, almost insignificant, but within it is the potential for growth far beyond what the eye can see. In the same way, every prayer you pray may feel like words whispered into the silence, but in the unseen realm, it is a seed taking root. The moment you pray, something begins to move. It may not sprout immediately, and it may not grow in the way you expect. No prayer made in faith is ever wasted. God hears every word, sees every tear, and holds every request. When a farmer plants seeds, he doesn't dig them up the next day to check if something has happened. He trusts the process. He knows that beneath the soil, in a place he cannot see, roots are forming and life is beginning. Prayer works in the same way. You may not see immediate evidence, but in the soil of God's timing, something is already happening. Just because you cannot see it yet doesn't mean it is not real. Delayed results do not mean denied requests. They mean God is arranging circumstances, preparing hearts, and aligning outcomes in a way that will bring the greatest good and the greatest glory. Prayer requires patience because seeds take time. The world trains you to expect instant answers, but the kingdom of God often works in seasons. Some prayers are answered like spring flowers, sprouting quickly and showing beauty right away. Others are like oak trees, taking years to grow strong and unshakable, because what God is building requires deeper roots. When you pray, you must trust not only in the power of God, but also in the timing of God. His delays are not rejections, they are part of the process of preparation. Every seed also needs watering. Just as a farmer waters his field, your prayers are watered by continued faith and persistent trust. Every time you return to God, thanking Him even before the answer arrives, you are watering that seed. Every time you hold on to hope instead of giving in to doubt, you are watering that seed. Every time you align your heart with His will instead of insisting on your own way, you are watering that seed. Eventually, what was hidden beneath the soil will break through into sight, and you will see the harvest of what you planted. The beauty of prayer is that the harvest is always greater than the seed. A single seed can produce a tree that bears fruit for generations. In the same way, one prayer can open doors for your children, bless people you may never meet, and change futures beyond your imagination. Prayer does not just touch your present, it reaches into your tomorrow. Every prayer you pray is a seed with eternal potential, and when placed in the soil of God's grace, it will produce a harvest in His perfect time.